Jennifer Rott, SVP of Innovation and Head of Product Design at Kineso, is a top 1% executive leader in product design and digital transformation. She is a lifelong advocate for human-centric and user-centric design thinking. Jennifer promotes diversity, equality, and inclusion, working with talented tech professionals to drive sustainable scalability in design, products, and operations.
Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. I am Jennifer Rote, and we're going to be talking about designing a design department. But before we get there, just a quick introduction about myself and my team. I am the SVP of Product Design and Product at IPG Media Brands. We create software that all of the media agencies and clients use to do the full media life cycle, to create target audiences, to create media plans, to assess media plans, so the full media life cycle. We are an award-winning design team. We are only 3 years old, and in those 3 years, we have won all of these awards. We went from 0 people to 30 people in 1 year, and we'll be talking about how we did that today. But great team. We do a ton of great work. This is just kind of a little snapshot of some of the things we do. We do a lot of dashboarding products, a lot of B2B products that really support the media lifecycle. So, designing a design department. What you'll see today, we'll talk about setting the vision, what about organization design, about creating a culture of collaboration, and about process. Setting the vision, services and goals. So the vision for the IPG product design, IPG Media Brands product design department is, if you're not having fun, we're doing it wrong. We strive for the happiness factor, which is my own little thing that I've coined. But the happiness factor is we basically want to make sure the people around us are happy. We aim to bring joy to the user through usability, functionality, and aesthetic. We also want to make sure our stakeholders are happy. We want to make sure our team members are happy, the interdisciplinary teams that we work with. We want to make sure everyone is happy and having a good time working with us and using the products that we're designing. Our design strategy connects a holistic ecosystem of products, across all themes. We work on about 50 products at IPG Media Brands, and we want to make sure they all feel like they're part of the same family. And we also want to expand and elevate the product footprint through trend setting and an empathetic user process. Our guiding principles, when you're setting up a design department, it's important to set up some of the principles that will help guide your work so that you can check every project or every product or every work. You can kind of check them against the same set of principles. The first things we set up was research. We really wanted to establish research as a discipline, and I wanted to make sure that we were giving ourselves the room to make sure that we were starting the full design thinking process with the evaluation of people, the evaluation of the ask, the evaluation of product, giving ourselves time for discovery. Ecosystem design, making sure that we are connecting all of our products into a holistic experience. Interaction design, making sure that we are thinking about how users are interacting with our products. Everything from micro interactions to micro animations to how people are working with the data or working with dashboards, how people are interacting with everything. It's not just, static click states. And operations, as we set up our department, I wanted to make sure that everything was scalable. So the process that we use, the tools that we use, the way that we set up our teams, making sure all of our operations are scalable so we can continue to grow. We did grow from 0 to 30 in a year, and that includes hubs in Poland, in Latvia, in New York, in the Netherlands, and in California. So we started with one small team with process and operations and people that worked, and then just duplicated that process as we scaled up. Also, collaboration. Really wanted to make sure that collaboration was a guiding principle for us. So we were building relationships with everyone that we were working with engineering, with product, making sure we could hand off work, making sure we could be a strategic partner to everyone, and making sure we could receive feedback and give feedback freely. Design thinking. So when I started at IPG Media Brands, design thinking was a dirty word. Everything was very agile. It was engineering first, agile first, and I had to go and sing the praises of design thinking and explain why it was good for our users, for our stakeholders, for business, for clients, and explain why design thinking leads to more strategic product, and that we can save engineering time by doing research up front in design, and by iterating things in design we can save again more engineering time, and we will eventually save money, and we will ultimately create better, more strategic product. But I did a lot of roadshows explaining why design thinking is good for everyone, and then also started with one small project using design thinking, and showed everyone how great the work was, and at the end of the project everyone said, oh my gosh, that's amazing, I want that. So we were able to scale design thinking to the full organization. But it is important to educate people on why design thinking is important, or other teams, maybe people don't understand it, and help educate people that design thinking is not just for design. Everyone can use design thinking. At IPG Media Brands, we actually set up a research repository so anyone in the organization can go in and get research and use some of the structures of design thinking to start at any point in the product lifecycle. So we are able to get everyone on design thinking, even when designers aren't there. So the next thing we'll talk about is our organizational design or organizational structure. So I've set up my team into pods, and each pod starts with a team of 3 designers. The formula for me was a UX researcher, a UX designer, and a UI designer. The formula for you might be a UX copywriter and a product designer, or a UX designer and a UI designer, but you want to find the formula that works for you. I specifically wanted to have a UX researcher as one of the members of the pods, so that we could set up research as a discipline, and it really gave us that breathing room to have a dedicated person for research. And then also UX and UI, to make sure we were thinking about interaction design, and we had someone dedicated to things like wireframes, and then UI, making sure that we had someone dedicated to the design system. So I set up this one pod of 3 people with our UX designer, our UI designer, and our UX researcher, and then duplicated that structure. So I set up that pod and then duplicated those 3 pods, or that one pod of 3, into multiple teams. Each pod is a different color because we're designers. And each pod is dedicated to about 5 or 6 different products. And then we've added a couple more designers here and there when the pods grow a little bit bigger. But this is our basic pod structure. The other thing that we have in our pod structure is we have our various management levels. So we have a senior designer, we have a junior designer, and we have a mid designer. A senior designer is the kind of captain of the pod, and they're the liaison between the management level of associate director and director, the product team, the engineering team, and they kind of rally the troops within their specific pod. The senior manages the mids, a mid manages a junior. This way, everyone has the experience to manage someone and starts to get management experience, so they don't reach the level of associate director or director and suddenly get handed a team of 15 people and have never managed anyone before. It also makes sure that everyone has someone close to them that they can feel comfortable with escalating things to or asking for help, and you're not intimidated by maybe a level of management that's very far removed from you. So we have our directors who provide strategic direction of the department. Our associate directors provide local management, and then we have our seniors who captain the pods, our mids who manage a junior and take on more complex design projects, and juniors who can be very self-sufficient on production-oriented tasks, research, discovery. Um, and so we duplicate that pod structure, senior, mid, junior, researcher, UX, and UI, take that pod structure and duplicate it. And by duplicating it, I was able to replicate and really scale the design team using the same onboarding process, using the same tools, using the same, project management tools, project management process, giving access to the same resources. Everything was able to be scaled once, because we started with that one pod that we could, that was our formula. It's also really important to talk about employee growth. Whenever you bring on new hires or you're starting a new team, you want to make sure that everyone knows what growth is for them. So making sure they know when promotions are given, how promotions are determined, making sure that everyone has a growth plan and they have tangible things to work against, and understanding what's in that growth plan. Also making sure that everyone has a one-on-one with the direct reports, so they can go over the growth plans and on a weekly basis go through what's working, give positive feedback, maybe talk about areas to improve, and then standard review cycles twice a year to do kind of the more formal reviews that will impact your promotions. Super, super important as you are growing your team to make sure that everyone understands what promotions and growth look like. Creating a culture of collaboration. So this is especially important as we are coming out of COVID. We're working in a world where everyone is very remote now. We're very global. We're working in areas where English is maybe not the first language for everyone, but it is maybe the business language that we're working in, or we're working in other languages. But one of the things that's important to do is set up in your onboarding deck some of the things that we like to do, the behaviors we like to do. So I don't like to set up culture as, hey, these are some buzzwords and these are our corporate buzzwords and we're all going to line against them. That is not culture. What I do to set up culture is I hire people who embody some of the behaviors and ways of working that we want to encourage. So, and the next three slides are actually from our onboarding deck. So we hire people that are proactive, that are supportive, that are curious, that are collaborative, people that are going to suggest new ideas, people that are going to support each other, people that are naturally curious, people that are collaborative. I don't tell people these are our cultural values. We just hire people that behave like this, and this helps build our team of culture. And when we start to hire people who behave like this, and we start to embody this ourselves, everyone around us will start to model this behavior, and we have an entire team now of proactive, supportive, collaborative, curious designers. Also, things we like to do: ask questions. I always like to set up with our teams that it's always good to ask questions. There's no such thing as too many questions. And one of the most important questions we can ask is, what are we solving for? Making sure that whenever an ask comes to us, we raise our hand and say, okay, but what are we really solving for? A lot of times we get something really prescriptive, and we might know right off the bat, well, I think that you are trying to give me the solution, but I don't think we're really solving for what you want. And we want to get to the root of what it's solving for, or what the product or engineering team or stakeholder is solving for, so that we can be more strategic partners to our collaborative peers. We always want to provide options. We always want to iterate. We always want to do user testing. Setting up our teams to do these things from the get-go is really going to make sure that we have a team that cares about their work, cares about their users, and is going to be passionate about everything that we're working on. Again, we like to review our work. We like to share often. We like to ask for help. We like to iterate, making sure that we have this very collaborative, supportive, helpful group of people around us that we work with. Process. When we are setting up a new department, we want to make sure that we have our process down. And we want to make sure, not just for ourselves, that we know what our process is, but we want to be able to share this with the other teams that we work with, so they know what to expect when they engage with us as a design team. So setting up the design thinking process: research and discovery, user interviews, wireframes, UI, prototype, user validation, functional specifications. This is a stock timeline that we provide anytime someone comes to us with a new project. We say, all right, this is our starter timeline. And then it's up to the design team to say if they want more time or less time for each of these phases, or maybe they want to do away with one of these phases altogether and they want to do more of a rapid prototyping cycle. It's up to the design team and the product team that they're working with to kind of meet in the middle and figure out what the timelines and what the phases they want. But we like to start with, this is the stock timeline. These are all of the services and phases that we do provide. We also have t-shirt sizes. So whenever a project comes in, we start by assessing, is it going to be small, medium, or large? Small is about a quarter, medium is about a quarter and a half, large is 2 quarters or more. We use these t-shirt sizes in our planning for our own self-initiated projects, for when product teams come to us, for when we start new products. But every quarter, we do our roadmap planning with the product and engineering teams. And the product team says, we have XYZ projects we want to get done, and we t-shirt size them, and then they're able to take that to engineering. Engineering is able to t-shirt size it based on the requirements the product team has and what we have set forth as a t-shirt size, so that we are able at the end to have a very seamless waterfall project management life cycle, so we can hand off things in phases, and engineering and product and everyone can work together and we can get things made. So that was a lot to cover in 9 minutes. If you have any questions, if you want a copy of this deck, please do reach out to me. I'd be glad to go into anything in more depth. I'd be glad to send you a copy of this deck. But that was a very quick overview in design leadership, some things to think about, and how to set up a product design department. Thank you so much.